No, he's right there. No, there he is.
All right, brilliant. I will call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. If we can stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I was obviously Rich isn't here today, so this is what power feels like, I guess. But we all received some really terrible news almost a week ago regarding Danny Duggan. So I would like to take a moment of silence, please. If I may be so bold as to say a few words about Danny, she was a tremendous individual, and I am glad that I had the pleasure to have her as my teacher while I was here for my 4 years. She really made the school feel, or at least her department feel, like it was home and it was a safe space. And I think above all, she excelled greatly at not only teaching her students to act and to pretend to be someone else, but to be true to who they really are and to be true to others. And I think that'll be the thing that I miss the most about her. So I invite anyone else, if they have anything else to say, they may. All right. Moving on to public comment. If there's anything not on the agenda today. All right, seeing none. Moving on to the discussion items, I will hand it off to Ms. Carolyn.
Sure. I think we'll start. We probably will start with the reports for school committee members.
Oh, yes, sorry. Anything to report? Seeing none. Nathan's not here today, so.
I don't believe he is, no.
All right.
And now.
Now, sorry.
Thank you. So I'll turn into my report for this evening, and we're going to start with a presentation of our MCAS data. I will ask Dr. Terry Markolitis to please come up and go over our results, not just how our students performed, but also what we see as opportunities and areas for growth. So Dr. Markolitis, welcome.
Never would have found that. Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to present you with a lot of information. If you have any questions, please stop me at any time. I did submit 2 different reports for you to look at. One is the one I'm presenting tonight, which is a shorter version. The longer version was also in the Dropbox. In the interest of time, because there's a lot of information that's going to be presented tonight, I'm going to give you the shorter version. Okay. So I'm going to start with the DESE press release that they sent out a short time ago. I'm going to start with a 3 years kind of overview of the data. We'll be looking at ELA trends and data, math trends and data, science trends and data. So I'm going to actually read this. I don't often read from slides, but I am quoting DESE, and I want to make sure and do them justice. So the results from this past spring, 2022, the results were mixed. Math and science scores have improved since 2021 overall in the state. English language arts scores have declined across the state. Overall results, when compared to pre-pandemic levels, show continued need for improvement. This is not Middleborough, this is the state of Massachusetts. So what you will see that follows with our data is in line with this. The results show that it may take a few years for students to recover academically from the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to repeat that. It may take a few years. So I think if we're expecting for things to rebound right away, that is very unrealistic. Students need more time learning, whether it's in the form of tutoring, acceleration academies, early literacy, after-school programs, or summer learning. The Department of Education continues to work with teachers and districts to improve early literacy instruction and through deeper learning initiatives make Massachusetts schools more relevant, engaging, and creative places to be a student or teacher. We have availed ourselves of some of this money and we will continue to do so. So this is the slide that gives us 3 years at a glance. There was no test in 2020. So what you see up there is 2019, 2021, and 2022. You can't really compare 21 and 22 because 21 was an abridged, shortened version of the MCAS. So when you are looking at the comparison, you really want to look at 19 and 22. Our goal as a district is to shrink the orange and red stacks and grow the green and blue. We will do this through adjusted scope and sequences for all of our curriculum, research-based instructional practices, and curriculum that meets the needs of all of our students. We do have students that follow a different pathway. These are the MCAS Alt portfolios. This is a portfolio style assessment, which includes work samples, instructional data, videos, etc. Students participate in the MCAS Alt in the same years that their peers do, so grades 3 through 10 in the content areas of ELA, math, and science. 15 alts were submitted for the 21-22 school year, and we will have the same number for this year. All students passed ELA and math. Only 4 students passed science due to a clerical error that is currently being corrected. So this will be updated when the Department of Education has made those corrections. Students who participate in MCAS Alt portfolio work, they achieve a certificate of attendance or achievement, not a high school diploma. I want to touch on our subgroups. So we do consider, we break it down to females and males. We do go into that depth as we look at MCAS. Females perform slightly higher than males in ELA, with males performing slightly higher than females in math. It was about the same in science. White students performed slightly better than non-white students. Non-identified low-income students performed higher than low-income students, with 26 low-income students meeting or exceeding expectations compared to 46 non-identified low-income students meeting or exceeding expectations. English learners scored slightly lower than non-English learners. And students with disabilities and those in the high needs category scored slightly lower growth than non-disabled or non-high needs students. Based on this data, as well as several other data points, we have already put several things in place to improve our student learning outcomes. The first is we hired a third English language learner teacher this year. We are in the process of hiring a literacy and a math interventionist at Nichols Middle School. We are hiring interventionists at the complex. We have a new position of an interventionist at the MEC. We have an adjusted scope and sequence for foundational literacy, and we will continue our work in that area. We are currently creating a scope and sequence for writing in grades K through 12 based on the MAS frameworks and using evidence-based practices. We are also in the process of a math curriculum review, and we will be piloting programs in January. We have ongoing professional development in math and literacy content, as well as the other content areas. This year saw the addition of screeners at the MEC in Early Bird Dyslexia Screener and Nichols STAR 360 for math and reading. We are developing standards-based units in ELA grades 6 through 8 during professional development sessions and professional learning communities. We are improving vertical and horizontal articulation throughout the district in every area. Grades 3 through 10 ELA. I'm going to start with trends, and this is really the bulk of the presentation for each of the content areas. I do have some data slides, and I will go over them briefly, but this is really where I want to focus our energy. So in grade 3, we found some strength in vocabulary acquisition. An opportunity for growth is conventions and writing. Grade 4, strength. Not much stood out. Grade 4 is one of those grades across the state that is showing some significant gaps in learning. And if you think about the last 2.5 years, it would make sense. Opportunities for growth, again, conventions and writing and knowledge of language. Grade 5, strength, nothing stands out. Opportunities for growth, conventions and writing. Grade 6, strength, craft and structure, opportunity for growth, conventions and writing. Grade 7, strength, nothing stands out, opportunity for growth, conventions and writing. Grade 8, strength, vocabulary acquisition, opportunities for growth, conventions and writing. So I'm sure you notice a commonality. We have some work to do in the area of writing and conventions. We are going to address that through our foundational literacy scope and sequence and instruction. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be creating a writing plan for K through 12, and we hope to have it implemented in the next 2 years. High school, strength, reading overall, opportunity for growth, conventions, writing. This is grade 3 ELA, and what you see here is the district state comparison. Constructed response, just for to make sure that we all understand what that is, that's basically writing a paragraph, often comparing 2 pieces of text. The selected response is multiple choice. And E, essay, is a very standard essay. In 3rd grade, I think they expect 3 paragraphs, and as they go up through the years, increased evidence and length of the essays. Grade 4 ELA, district state comparison, Anything in the red, we are below the state. Grade 5 ELA. Grade 6. Grade 7. Grade 8. And grade 10. Moving on to math, 3 through 10. Trends in math. Grade 3, strong constructed responses, geometry and fractions, opportunities for growth, properties of multiplication and division. Grade 4, strength, numbers and operations, opportunity for growth, geometry. Grade 5, strength, writing. Writing in math is a thing. Opportunity for growth, fractions. Grade 6, strength, writing and geometry, opportunity for growth, numbers and equations. Grade 7, strength, statistics, probability, opportunity for growth, numbers and equations. Grade 8, amazing overall. High school strength, polynomials, opportunity for growth, functions and equations. And then the slides that follow, again, it's the state and district comparison. Anything in the red is below the state. This is grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, and grade 10. Grade 10 has an awful lot of standards. Moving on to science, trends in science. Grade 5, science engineering, strength, earth, space science, life science, opportunity for growth, matter and its interactions, which is chemistry. Grade 8, science and engineering, strength was amazing overall. So our grade 8 really knocked it out of the park. Congratulations to the teachers and the students who are currently in grade 9. Opportunity for growth, engineering design. High school biology, strength, ecology and evolution, opportunity for growth, heredity, molecules to organisms, and constructed responses. And here's a stack graph of the district and state comparison. We did really well in science and technology in grades 5 and 8 and 10. Any questions?
First, could you just tell me what a non-identified low-income category means?
So it just means we don't know if people are low income or not. We only know if they are receiving free and reduced. It's the only way that we can categorize them. So that's how the state reports out on them.
Got it. Got it. And then, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I had just a couple other questions.
Please.
I'm so interested by that dynamic of the ELA grade 3 doing, from what I can tell, at or decently above the state on ELA, but the same trend doesn't exist with that same grade for math. And I wondered if you had any ideas about what is it about that kind of magic grade 3, which by my quick math, they were in first grade when the pandemic hit. What is it about them that allowed them to do better than some of the higher grades in ELA?
So I think that's a really good question. It really looked different between the two schools. This is the average of the two schools. So if you break it down, there were some commonalities, I would say, between math and English, but put it together and it kind of came out with a different outcome.
I see. And then, Mr. Chair, just one more.
Yeah.
I think just it's pretty jarring when you're scrolling through these and you look at the difference between. I'm just looking at grade 4 HBB math versus grade 4 MKG math. And I just wondered if you had an idea of what was going on there too. One has a lot of red and one doesn't.
Yeah. So I think, I've talked with the principals about this. We have some work to do in math across the district. We have strengths in different places. I would say it has a lot to do with just really needing to make sure that we're all on the same page. And that has to do with the vertical and horizontal articulation I was speaking to earlier. We know we have work to do there. We are addressing it.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Just regarding the funding for some of these positions, are we
Sure.
using ESSER grant funding? Did we pre-budget for all of this? Because it's quite a few positions that it looks like you're looking to get, which is great, but just want to make sure that we're
Yeah,
good on
so I can speak to that, but I think Sarah's probably a better person to speak to that.
We both can speak to that. So several of those positions are ESSER funded, which does call into question that works for now. Now,
Right.
what we did with positions was we funded them or tried to fund them for multiple years. So it wouldn't be a quick hit. You have this support for 1 year only. So many of those positions are ESSER funded, and we will be coming to, budget subcommittee to talk about that as these funds dry up. We also had the Chapter 70 reallocation. So that money is also something that we've used, some of the new interventionist positions as well, because we just feel, one, that's in line. The other part of the story here is our growing enrollment, which is a wonderful thing to have, but more students in our district means, everybody's expertise is spread beyond a larger group. So both of those areas were identified and not operating budget. Would you concur with that?
I would, well, and in addition to that, for example, the additional ELL teacher, that is a need that we have known about, the growing English language learning population in Middleborough. We've known about that, and that is actually a position that was funded from the budget for this upcoming year. So I would concur with what Superintendent Lyons said. There are a number of ESSER positions. Dr. Markulitis and I built some of the interventionist positions into the Title I grant. So the Title I grant, I think if you recall my riveting presentation about grants a couple weeks ago, Title I grant is an entitlement grant, which means we will get that year after year after year. And so we took a good look at what was the best use of this money and putting it towards working with the students that needed support was a good idea. So not just ESSER, but Title I. Did we use Title II also?
We did. We also used Title IV.
Title IV, thank you. So we really took a look at what the needs were and we reached everywhere we could reach.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions? Yes.
Sorry, I thought that was a good question, and I just wanted to ask a follow-up, actually really to our team up here, or actually anyone can answer. But given the idea that there's a kind of a multi-year slump after COVID, maybe the answer is that the positions, as we just talked about, are can be easily justified by the growing enrollment. But how, next year and the year beyond, how do we look to kind of evaluate the impact of those new positions, given that the slump is also coming back up at the same time? Because I think this will be a prequel for future budget
Great.
stuff in 2023 and beyond.
Agreed. It's an excellent question. It was actually one of the first things that our leadership team talked about when ESSER money came out. There was an immediate kind of question of, do we flood the district with new hires, or do we allocate that money to some other expenditure, or do we do a mix of both? And the team knew at the time that if you use or allocate all of that money to salaries, ultimately you are breaking your budget, whether you realize it or not. So the metric of, okay, was this effective, is going to involve looking at multiple data points. So no disrespect to MCAS, but this is not the data point that I will be using to determine whether or not these positions were effective. As Dr. Markolitis correctly points out, this is going to take a couple of years to address. The state completely recognizes that. So I'm going to be looking through my data entry process, my entry plan process. You're going to look at other forms of data, that STAR 360 data, early bird, that dyslexia screener, the number of students who are referred for special education. You're going to look at overall student progress, not an isolated data point like MCAS to say, is this effective? This is where the work and the magic of the leadership team really comes to life, because these are conversations we're having in our meetings every 2 weeks. And there is very much a constant assessment of, is this working? Isn't this working? One of the reasons the interventionists at the elementary level are onboarding now and not, over the summer, was because of conversations I had with Principal Thompson and Principal White, where we were trying to provide additional support in grade levels that this not only are identified by us, 3, 4, and 5, but also the state as completely vulnerable populations because of the impact of the pandemic and the developmental place those children were at the time. Does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
I want to add to that, if you really analyze where the money is going, it's focusing on improving instruction. So professional development for teachers, supporting the people that we've put in place are about supporting the teachers in the work that they do, and those teachers are still going to be with us 5, 6, 10 years from now. So it's not, I know a district where they just flat out hired 30 extra teachers. They'll be gone 2 years from now. I don't know what happens after that, because that wouldn't be effective here.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thank you.
Just one point, Chair? What I wanted to say, and I don't want this to be interpreted as an apology in any capacity, or, a downplaying of these results. These results are very much a data point, but I think I would be remiss to not address the children that took this test at this point in time with everything that they went through. And I say that to this community, not only as your superintendent, but as a mom of a 5th grader who took it. And I know how he felt about it. So if you're a student and you're listening to tonight, or you're hearing it after the fact, I think it's very important that everybody understand that we are proud of our children, and we applaud them for persevering and sitting for a high stakes test during this time. And while this is one data point, it is not the exclusive data point. It does not represent any one child or this district. That said, I think it's clear that we have work to do. I think we're more than equipped and happy to address it. But I wanted to make sure I made that point tonight, because I often think about the perspective of our students and how it feels when adults talk about them and their assessment and their performance. So if anybody, wants to talk with me about that more privately, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to give you my perspective on that.
I would just like to add one other piece to that. So I have done this data dance throughout the district now. And the one thing I want to add to what Superintendent Lyons has said is that the principals and the teachers in this district have worked incredibly hard. And this one data point does not demonstrate the work and the effort that they put forth every single day. And so we know that we should not have tested our kids at this time, but we did. We followed what the state regulated, and the results that we got show that we have work to do. We do, but that's not saying that we haven't been doing some really great work in this district. We have.
Are there any more questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I will move into our school improvement plan presentations. I will begin with high school principal Paul Brannigan, who will report out on the Middleborough High School school improvement plan for the 22-23 school year. By way of review, the principals came to school committee to present out in the spring to discuss not just performance on last year's plan, but to give a rough sketch of what would be addressed in this plan. So what you have in the Dropbox are the complete plans for all 5 buildings, and each principal will take their turn, but going through this plan with a little more depth this evening.
Hi,
So,
everyone.
Mr.
Good
Reed.
evening. We're really excited. I think as I speak for all 5 principals, we're really excited about sharing these plans with you tonight. And we know that back in June, we had shared with you a little bit of a preview of, to some degree, where we're hoping to go, but also just some of the accomplishments of our school improvement plans a year ago. And now tonight, you're going to be able to see what has been finally agreed upon within our school councils. And I'm really excited to share with you the ones for the high school. Just a recognition to the members of the school council here at the high school, from our members of our faculty to our parent team that are just dynamite, and to also the student rep as well, which for the high school level is so important to have that voice at the table. You're going to notice the 8 goals for us here at our building. Teaching and learning practices, and this is really our probably most influential kind of goal that we have, where it really is taking, as you know, as you just heard Dr. Markolitis' presentation of all of our data. It's really an opportunity for us to kind of come together as a school and try to begin to unpack that. And so part of this goal is really looking at our teaching and learning practices, but it's also taking a dive into our data. It's looking at our launch and engagement of our goal of beginning our work with project-based learning, which really one of the tenets of this new high school was really built on the premise of a project-based learning school. Really looking at our instruction, but then also the beginnings of our professional learning communities as well, and really bringing back one of the protocols we always would have in our school with our faculty, which was our faculty expositions. So I'll share with you a little bit about those items. From our strategic planning, as you notice that from this year through the year 2025, the next 3 years are very important for this high school, as our accreditation will happen in 2025. And these strategic plans are really 3-year plans that all of our content areas have been drafting, and now they're completed. And now we'll be working with those, and I'll share a little bit about that in just a moment. From transition to health and wellness to really my favorite goal is our innovation and future ready goal, where really it's really taking our students to where we hope to be a new level of really looking at innovative pathways in this building, being able to look at really making connections for students that no matter what they're taking here at the high school, it has connections to really their next step. And then also some of our big ticket items, from our NEASC accreditation to our new high school schedule, and of course, our very important ongoing work with our commitment to belonging. And really just an overview really briefly, what I'm really excited by is a creation of a formal data team at the high school. I will tell you the reason why. You may say, well, shouldn't you already have one? Well, we've always had them within the content areas of high stakes MCAS. The English department, the math department, and the science department. And many years ago, the fact that we ended up shifting that and really creating a full school approach to that data. And I think we're here again based upon really the data points that you saw this evening. And it's really about making sure, how do we put all the oars in the water at the same time? So this data team is really made up of the major content areas in the building. So even though you're going to have English and math and science, still really unpacking those standards in that data, but it's also an opportunity for content areas like history to be able to say, well, where can we have an entry point? If it's really looking at our commitment to writing, which is one of the areas that you saw this evening, but it's even more than that. How can they be plotting population charts and mapping and things of that nature to be able to know that we can transfer skills from one content to another? Our project-based learning goal, which is really something we're quite excited by. We have a few teachers in the building last year who were trained to be able to begin the process of the tenets of project-based learning. And the idea is to really hopefully begin the expansion of that this year. Our redesign of the Freshman Academy, which is something I can say we've done it. And now it's just really looking at how this redesign will look in the year to come. And it's really helping students really, especially our 9th graders, of course, to be able to find consistency in really what we're doing. And we know the fact that you heard a little bit about that when we shared some things about NEASC. One of the things we're doing mostly in history and in English as a pilot, which then will transfer itself to math and science, is really looking at pre-AP skills. We know the fact that if we can begin in the 9th grade of really working with our students in really some of the major skills of an advanced placement student, it will allow for their entry point going into that year when they want to begin an AP course, whether in math or English or science or history or wherever, and to be able to know they've got some real foundational skills going in. And so a lot of what we're doing this year, especially as the launch within history and English, is to beginning looking at some what we call pre-AP skills that would happen in grades 9 and grade 10. So when they go into AP US history, when they go into AP Lang and composition or AP literature, they really have a little bit of a skill set behind them that's going underneath them that will help them start those courses with success. These strategic plans, and it's really all about growth. So we really gave all of our content areas a charge to say, where do you want to be in 3 years? What do we look like as a school? What do we look like as a department, as a content area? And ultimately, what do our classrooms look like in 3 years? And so the target is that by the spring of 25, that we be able to meet these plans. It's based on a traffic light model where all of our content areas are in the red as a number 1. As they begin charting these goals, it will turn to a yellow, which means they're progressing, and ultimately they'll turn green once they've met those goals as well. And then really just enhancing the process of transitioning to the high school, working with Mrs. Latender at the middle school, with the counseling team in both buildings, with the administrative teams in both buildings. It's really making sure that we can keep growing and enhancing what we're doing with the transition from grade 8 to 9. And one of the goals that we have, which we're really desperately working at this year, is really the continuing of our mentorship program, which we had started at Start Strong, and now we're just trying to get it organized to be able to make sure those 9th graders are making those formal connections with our seniors. And lastly, you just see some of our health and wellness. We're really excited by the redesign of our child study team, really a commitment to the expertise of Kevin Avatabli and our school psychologist here, Kylie Bowen, a PBIS training, the positive behavior interventions of really looking at what our students need and how can we create consistent classrooms. It's really quite exciting work. Trauma-informed classrooms, which we've done here in terms of a full district, but now we're working at that as well to make sure that how are we engaging all of our students who walk in the door, and then ultimately our redesign of the advisory program. And just lastly, our Future Ready program, which we're really excited by, it's really helping our students not only for the college readiness piece, but more importantly, a career readiness piece. I think we as a high school have done a really nice job of helping students prepare for those students who are going on to college, but we really need to be enhancing those students who plan not to go on to college. What does it look like with creating partnerships with so many of our community partners to make sure the fact that are we really saying that our students are ready to go off into the next stage of life? And are we really making sure they're future ready? And so a lot of that is based upon with this facility now is now making sure we're maximizing the potential of the new building. The completion of the vision of the graduate, which is one of the requirements of NEASC. But what we're hoping to do eventually is bring it to all of you as a district to be able to say that the vision just doesn't start in the 9th grade. It actually begins the first day they walk into the public school system. Designing the new high school schedule, which is something that we are working at. We have a meeting next week with Aspen to look at really the infrastructure of that design. Our self-reflection, as we know, all of our community members receive their surveys from our students to our teachers to our families, and then we'll be eventually receiving all of that data, and then we begin writing our self-reflection, which is due by the end of June. This is really a major document for us as we'll have our site visit next November. And then lastly, just really the continuation of our commitment to belonging. It's really making sure that every student who walks into our school has a sense of a home and they feel like they belong. It's taken our World of Difference program, which was really a program of training mentors in our students to really make sure they could do leadership training with their peers. But now it's really making sure they're part of a club and that it's really transitioned from a program to an organization as well. And we're pretty excited by that. And that's really what I have for the high school. So we're excited and we appreciate your consideration for approval.
Any questions? Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Heidi Latender.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Principal Latender makes her way to the podium, I'll call your attention to her school improvement plan for the 22-23 school year.
Good evening, school committee members, Superintendent Lyons, and our community members. Thank you for this opportunity to share our school improvement plan for the 22-23 school year. I know in June, we did share quite a bit about our plan, and I'd like to share with you some of our highlights. And we are continuing, as Dr. Michaelitis referenced, our approach to literacy at Nichols Middle School and really working with our department to really rethink our literacy instruction, what that model looks like. And we are going to be working closely with the teachers to build those units of instruction. And we did some training last year to support and better serve our students and our teachers in understanding what the different levels of reading looks like. Our department teachers are trained differently than our elementary teachers, but we felt that it was important for teachers to understand that students read at different rates and ability levels, and that would help them differentiate their content when delivering instruction to their students each day. And we will continue, and we did accomplish using Lexia last year, but we are not using Lexia for this year. And we are moving on to the STAR 360 data points, along with other common assessments that are being built and homegrown within our departments. We did create our gender support plan. So a lot of these items up here listed were on our action steps from the previous year, and these are the things we have accomplished. And we continue our work on understanding cultural biases and working with our departments, and we are excited to have our clubs all see our students in a typical middle school setting. And when you think about our 8th graders this year, this is their first year at the middle school having a typical middle school experience, which has been wonderful to see. So we have 4 proposed goals for you. And the first one is the most prominent goal with about 13 action steps in regards to our instructional practices to better support student learning and engagement, and obviously to increase our student achievement levels. We also are looking to promote and implement our social emotional learning strategies into our student school-wide expectations throughout the school year. And we also want to reestablish our school culture built on maintaining class, team, grade, and school-wide agreements. And really, it's looking at continuous building of our positive school culture and relationships within the school community. And we also want to maintain safe and up-to-date facilities. Some of our highlights, there are 13 action steps, but I will not go through all 13 with you tonight. But here are some of the highlights. We really are looking at Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention. And what does that look like? Tier 1 is for everybody. 80% or 85% of our students everyone's getting the same instruction, but about 85% of those students should be learning from that type of instruction. And then you have about Tier 2, could be 10 to 15% of our students might need something a little different. And what does that look like? And so we're using a lot of our common assessment data, our STAR 360 benchmark data that will be administered in the fall, winter, and spring. And within each department and cross departments, we will be looking at those data points and seeing where our students are being successful and where are areas of needing improvement. And we are continuing our training in English Language Arts department. But really in all of the departments this year, we're really looking at that vertical articulation that Dr. Michaelitis referenced. And then we are working and already started working on increasing our writing across all disciplines. As you could see, that is an area that continues to need improvement. We are also, for our goal 2, we are working on some character education and social media explanations and conversations with our students. We are hosting grade level meetings just about every month with the guidance department and the administrative team and myself to talk to our students. It's great to have them all in one area to have those conversations this year and look at the needs of our students and what is happening and what are some concerns, and then we address those and talk to them together. And then we are continuing with our Character Strong and enhancing our social emotional skills. Mr. Brannigan spoke of the multiple multi-tiered systems of support, which is MTSS, which also helps to build our PBIS. I know a lot of acronyms, which is Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. We are building and enhancing our model. We have a jump-off model at Nichols Middle School, but it really needs some more work and realignment. And our committee will be working together with a team throughout the year to rebuild that model. And then we are also working on meeting monthly with our guidance department and really looking at the panorama data along with the administrative team to really look at where are our students at in their learning and in their well-being, and really together coming up with some action steps and plans to support students and identify the areas of need. And in goal 3, one of the goals is have coffee with the principal meetings, which I had one this week already. And the goal is really to build that bridge between home and school communication. And I'm really looking to hear what families want to learn more about, whether it's about Nichols Middle School or other topics related to middle school or adolescence. I want to be able to be a bridge and share ideas and resources and work with families. And we're continuing our work on cultural awareness throughout the district and our school particularly. We will be having some trainings coming up in January and in February on recognizing bias. And we also worked at the end of last year with the World of Difference. The students from the Middleborough High School came down and trained our staff. And it was amazing professional development that we had. And they did a fantastic job. Our high school models were awesome. So we want to continue with that work. And then, of course, we want to maintain our up-to-date facilities in our school. We have a beautiful school. We do receive many compliments when people come to the Nichols Middle School and they're surprised that it's like 22 years old because it's well-maintained. And we want to keep up with that. And currently, Mr. Siciliano is working on updating and changing out our whiteboards in each classroom. So that's going to be an ongoing process throughout the next few years. And obviously, we need to keep up with maintaining the one-to-one devices at Nichols Middle School. So that is my report for this evening. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and so with that, we will turn into our elementary schools, and we'll begin with the Henry B. Birkeland Elementary School and Principal Derek Thompson as he puts forward his school improvement plan for the 22-23 school year.
Good evening. I'd just like to start by thanking my school council members that I had last year. We had a great group and a lot of rich dialogue last year. I really appreciated my time with them last year. They put a lot of time and effort into our plan, which really you did hear when I was here in the spring. So I think a lot of this will be quick. I did just want to say a bit about MCAS because, you know, as I sit there and I look at it, it is a little bit frustrating. And I think as a principal, my job is to impact things in a positive way in a classroom. The teachers go in the room, they close their door, and ultimately they're in there by themselves making 10,000 decisions every day. And it's my job to positively impact those decisions so it has a good outcome on student growth. And frankly, it was really hard to do that over the last couple of years. I mean, we're so distracted dealing with things from quarantining kids to, dealing with masks. And then when the masks came off, it was interesting. I'll leave it at that last year. This year has a completely different feel to it. I really am more optimistic than I've been in a really long time. We have supports that we haven't had in this district in a long time, which I feel like has been freeing me up to do a lot of things I haven't been able to do in a long time. The atmosphere, the environment, it feels normal. It feels good. Kids are learning. We're digging in again. We haven't been able to do some of the work we've been doing. We had a math PD today with grade 3. We haven't really done any of that work in a long time. So the data is frustrating and it's not surprising. It's, we just haven't been doing the things that we know we've needed to do. So we are back at it, which is good. So a lot of what is in my plan are things we've been doing, we know works, with, I think, another layer of support that hadn't necessarily existed before. So my first goal is to improve student performance and literacy in grades 1 to 5. And specifically what we're looking to improve to accomplish this goal this year is to work with the teachers in the areas of writing, word work, reading foundational skills, and handwriting. Handwriting is a new one for us this year. We have handwriting without tears, so we're focusing on that in grades 1 and 2. We're also, another little piece that we haven't been able to do much is just increasing engagement in students as readers and writers, and doing all the little extra things like visiting the library and publishing kids' writings and things that, you know, take a little bit extra time. We've been able to get back at this year, which is great. And then just ensuring all our students are on a path of growth. So really the structures that we have in place at HBB are what allow us to do that. So we assess all of our kids. We ensure that we are meeting in PLC, which is our professional learning community, is looking at that data, targeting any kids that are struggling, and providing interventions at all 3 tiers to any kids that need those interventions and keep moving them forward. Kids that continue to struggle, we bring them to child study team, and we go from there. So we also have a lot. There's been a lot of work, curriculum work done that is very helpful, laying out that scope and sequence and clarity around what we should be teaching to make sure that we're getting to everything we need to get to has been helpful. And also getting back to our differentiated professional development and coaching cycles that come out of that. One of the things that we had done with our training through when we were partnered with Lesley University was short ongoing PDs that we provided coverage for. So teachers came out for 2 hours and then they had coaching in between. We really haven't been able to do much of that the last couple of years. It's really impactful. It's a big part of what brought our school from where it was to where it is today, where it was in 2019, which is the last time I'd sit here and tell you I feel good about the data. So we're getting back at a lot of that stuff, and I think it's been great. Our next goal is to improve student performance in math. Same structures apply to math. Specifically, what we're looking to improve in math is guided math. And getting back to the workshop model, you know, again, a little bit difficult when you have to have kids spaced out all over the room. Now that we have a little bit more flexibility to do some flexible grouping and moving kids around the room. And really continuing to expand their skill set and differentiation and just getting at the conceptual understanding in mathematics. We have a bunch of fun things planned for the kids this year. We have a math week planned, kind of like our STEM week, which those kinds of things are really important for kids to see themselves as mathematicians. And again, ensuring that all kids are on a path of growth. So we do that the same way by monitoring progress. We give the assessments, we take a look at all of our kids that are struggling, we develop plans for kids that are not where we want them to be, and then we reassess them and make sure those plans are working. And then our last goal is an SEL goal, that is to foster an inclusive environment for students and families so that all students feel like they belong and are equipped with the social emotional learning skills required to meet with success. We are focused on trying to improve competencies for both teachers and students in the areas of executive functioning, emotional regulation, self-awareness, relationships, kids' ability to stay focused for longer periods of time, which is becoming increasingly challenging, goal setting, and goal attainment. So those are the things that we're focusing on. So we do that. We talked a little bit about this last year. We do that through the use of the Purposeful People curriculum that we implement during morning meeting and Calmer Choice, just teaching kids to be present, aware of their surroundings, the kids around them. And, you know, we have a lot of things at HBB that we do, but those are specific initiatives that we're focused on this year. We also are focused on improving our home to school partnership. So we've been talking about 2 big things that we're working on right now is developing some clarity around our end of grade expectations, specific with the learner behaviors and the social emotional skills we're trying to develop in kids, and then being clear about how we actually teach those. So like one example we talk a lot about is the use of agendas and being consistent with that. And if that's what we ultimately choose to do as a pathway to start to teach kids to organize themselves, to be planful, to map out assignments that they might have that might not be due for a couple of days. What does that look like in 4th grade? What does that look like in 5th grade? And then working with families too, in terms of, why did we send homework? At the elementary level, we're not under any illusion that sending home a math worksheet is going to improve kids in math. It's really teaching personal responsibility. It's teaching kids to bring something home, to do something at home, seek support, bring it back. So that's a big part of what we're trying to focus on, just a little bit more clarity and consistency around the building. As we do that, we're going to do some parent nights, bring families in to try to work with families, because I think that's the intersection where home and school meets, is in that area. So we also, with SEL, have these conversations in our professional learning communities. For a long time, we have administered a SEL screener. So some of the changes for us this year through Mr. Evitable's office is just taking a lot of the structures we've already had in place and aligning them with what's going on in the rest of the district. So using Panorama, using a different screener to track that information, and just, put in plans for kids that are struggling, basically. So the same process that we go through for math and ELA, we also do for kids that are struggling making friends or getting along with others or sitting still in class or staying focused. We put plans in place for those kids as well. So that is my plan. Any questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move to the Mary Kay Good Elementary School. Principal Lisa White is making her way to the table where she will present her school improvement plan for the 22-23 school year.
Good evening, everybody. This is probably my favorite presentation that we get to do. I love talking about Mary Kay Good. I'm sure you know that by now. So thank you to our school council. They put a lot of hard work in this last year, creating a plan that I think really encompasses where we've been and where we need to go. So thank you. And thank you. We have new members this year on our team, and excited to work with them as well. Linda Lincoln, a parent, is a new member, and Emily Temple also is a new member this year. So we're very excited to begin working with them. So our first goal is a literacy goal, and obviously, it's to improve instruction. That's what we want to do with literacy. So we're focusing on our workshop model. This allows us to differentiate. It also allows us to meet the needs of students and what their needs are in the classroom. Our professional development, which is unique in a lot of senses, that we have our coaches to do job-embedded professional development, which then is aligned to our coaching, which then aligns to our PLCs, our professional learning communities. And that's a through line of discussion for our teachers, which is our coaches are also, part of our PLC. So we're hearing all of the conversations because it's important for our staff to hear from others and each other about what the other grade levels need support in, because we're working as a team, and that's helps us with our vertical alignment. Job embedded PD, it's nice to have professional development and then go back to your classroom as Mr. Thompson said, they can shut their door. But no, we're going to come in, we're going to look, we're going to analyze data with the teachers, with the students in some cases. It's important to sit and look at a student's writing with the student, with the coach, with the teacher, and really provide that support right there in the moment. Developing, refining curriculum maps and trajectories. This started this summer with a grant, and I know Dr. Markolitis spearheaded this over the summer with some grant money that we had. And this is important because we want to make sure that what our students are learning is high quality, and it's also progressive. We want to make sure grade 1 builds on grade 2 builds on grade 3, but especially in those transition years where you're changing buildings, where you're changing K1, where you're changing 5-6, that's important for us because we have to make sure that we don't have any gaps there. So that's very, very important to have that alignment. And not only that, but the consistency among grade levels. Consistency in not only MKG, grade 1, grade 2, but next door, our friends at HBB, making sure that we're all aligned to provide the high quality education that all of our students should have. Our assessment, we do the benchmark assessment system, our STAR 360, our early bird screener, that will be for grade 1. Something that is really a focus for us this year is, and I know my colleagues have mentioned, the multi-tiered system of support, the MTSS. Through Mr. Avatable, we're attending the MTSS Academy. Now, this is a structure. It's a structure of tiered support. Tier 1 is universal. Everyone gets it. Tier 2 is targeted. Tier 3 is intensive. This is the structure in which things like RTI live in, child study lives in. This is the overall big kind of, world. And this is for all: academic, behavioral, everything fits in this system. And I'm excited about how this looks and how we're going to move forward with MTSS. And we have a great committee, and every grade level is represented that's attending the academy. Special education is represented, and I'm very excited about the work that they're going to be bringing back to our entire team on how does that system work within our system. In our child study team, it's really wrap around in looking at our kids, and I'm very excited for this work. Our implementation of handwriting without tears, and something that we did in the past and we're revisiting is the respond to reading benchmarks. We did these my first few years here, and we're going back to that because with Dr. Markolitis too, working with the coaches, creating these benchmarks that we're doing, and they're common, which is nice because we'll be able to calibrate the writing between grade levels. Teachers can look at different student writing. One of my favorite things to do is to have fifth grade teachers look at first grade student work. That's a real eye opener sometimes for our fifth grade teachers to see really what our first graders or their capabilities are. So I'm really excited to start sitting down and looking at the work that our kids are doing and being able to monitor their progress, analyze their work, and really to calibrate so we're all on the same page of what we're seeing with our students. In goal 2, we're looking at kind of the same thing with mathematics, looking at refining and our curriculum maps to ensure the same thing we're looking at with ELA. We want to make sure for consistency and alignment. As Mr. Thompson said, grade 3 had training today. So great so far. Grade 1 has had training. Grade 2 has had training. Grade 3 was today. 4 and 5 is coming up. In the workshop model, guided math, to be able to, again, consistency and alignment. This also will be including a math pilot, as Dr. Markolitis did mention, that will be starting in January. And we want to make sure, like when we're looking at this pilot, that it meets our needs here in Middleborough. That's key for us. That's key for me, to make sure that we're picking something that our kids need, what our teachers are going to be able to use to enhance and grow our students. Again, our job-embedded professional development. One thing about our coaches, our coaches in the past have been very literacy-focused coaches. And a shift that's been made is that they're instructional coaches, which is great that now we're looking at everything. They're not just literacy coaches. We're able to do the same thing with math that we're doing for ELA. And that's a huge shift that I'm definitely looking forward to having those conversations in math. We're using STAR 360 as our assessment right now. We're also looking through working with one of our coaches, looking at building common assessments. Starting with grade 5, we're going to start there looking at how we're going to build common assessments for our grade 5 students. Again, the MTSS shows up here as well because, again, with math, we're going to be doing the same thing. ST Math, if anybody gets to come by Mary Kay Good, I invite you to come by and see Gigi. Gigi's the mascot, and we're filling Gigi with dots. Every 10% of completion, the students get a dot. And it's caused a little bit of a buzz in our school. So if you hear about Gigi and their dots, please come visit Gigi. It's very interesting to see. We're looking to increase our engagement in the interest in math and science with our after-school clubs and Rotary Rays. We do have several STEM clubs that are after school, a little bit of an increase every year. We have one more STEAM club because the kids are very interested in our STEAM clubs. And I love that the hands-on, things that we can do after school, the kids love it. It's messy and it's fun, and there's lots of cool things that are going on. So Our third goal is fostering the inclusive environment for students and families so that all students feel like they belong and are equipped with the social emotional learning skills required to meet with success. Professional development around this area, we started the year off with the entire Middleborough district receiving training in trauma education. So that was already a step in that direction. So we're looking to our school psychologist, our school adjustment counselor, our special education teachers, who kind of are the go-tos in this area, to provide some professional development to the rest of our staff throughout the course of this year. Common Choice in grades 1 to 5 to support being in the moment, being present, self-regulation, that all assist with that. We're still working with Character Strong and Purposeful People and our words of the month. Again, as I said, MTSS fits here too, because we're still working with the behavioral piece or the learner behaviors through MTSS and what that looks like in a tiered structure as well. Parent nights, and see, these are some of the things that we had talked about, was internet safety, dyslexia, anxiety as possible topics that we'd like to look at for this year for parents. Something I'm extremely excited about, our first meeting is actually November 1st, and it's the establishing of a diversity, equity, and inclusion parent committee. And I'm very excited. Like I said, November 1st is our first meeting, and this is something that I'm looking forward to. We have some parent representatives that I'm looking forward to working with. Redesign of our child study team. This again works with our MTSS, within that MTSS framework, to look at students, to looking at our specialists, looking at our school adjustment counselors, our OTs, our PTs, our speech, to build plans for kids and strategies for kids that may need a little bit more support in those tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And we're continuing with our town meetings. We are restructuring them a little bit this year with 1 month, we'll be doing the Purposeful People in our town meeting. And then on the opposite month, our specialists will have kind of an enrichment with the kiddos. So they'll be able to have like an extra gym or an extra art to do something a little bit more that they don't get to have during the school day. So we're looking forward to that. So here, Mary Kay Good, we're making kids great. So we're really excited about that. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions? No? All right. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Principal White. And last but certainly not least, we will turn to the Memorial Early Childhood Center, and Principal Jeremy Gopiel can talk to us about the land of pre-K and kindergarten.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. And thank you to Dr. Markulitis and my fellow principals for being so thorough in their presentations. And really all I have to say is ditto, but with our youngest learners. So I do want to share a quick story. You've been in the MEC. It's a magical place. I'm reminded of the movie Finding Nemo and Dory. I'm standing in the hallway having a conversation with a teacher, and a kid comes out of their classroom to go across the hall to go to the bathroom, and they're like, "Hi, Mr. Gopiel. Hi, Mr. Gopiel. Hi, Mr. Gopiel." They walk in, they go to the bathroom, they come out a few minutes later. "Hi, Mr. Gopiel. Hi, Mr. Gopiel. Hi, Mr. Gopiel." It's like all day long. It's, if you ever need a shot to your ego, please come to my school and I'll introduce you, and you will be the highlight of their day. So I have worked very closely with Mrs. White and Mr. Thompson at the elementary level. Our goals are all very similar. We have a literacy goal, a math goal, and a social emotional learning goal. I'm just going to go through and kind of highlight some of our action steps. We will be initiating the early bird dyslexia screener, which is coming. It's going to be mandatory, and we will be getting that started up and running as soon as possible. Another big piece of what we're doing in literacy and math is our instructional coach. As Mrs. White had mentioned, there's been a high focus on literacy, especially at the elementary level. But it also includes math, and our work with Mrs. Santos and her professional development and role as a coach and coaching cycles is going to be really instrumental toward our growth. in that regard. Also with that is we have a new position, which is our interventionist, our literacy interventionist, reading interventionist, and our assessments are really going to drive our interventions and targeted and specific interventions. I'm really excited about working with Dr. Markolitis about in regard to our assessments and reviewing our assessments and which ones are the most effective and what that means in regard to our student learning. In regard to math, we have not at MEC had a sort of standardized math assessment, and we are introducing the STAR 360 assessment for our math this year. We'll be doing that pretty shortly. That will really be a big part of, again, using our assessment to drive our instruction and our targeted interventions. We will also be continuing our practice of sending math resources home, not as homework, but as resources for families with some instruction around what the purpose of it is and just the practice of sending things home to families. It's not expected to be brought back to school or graded or anything. And then we're also looking at the panorama and using for our K in particular, starting the panorama process for our district at our youngest level. And so that is as sort of a framework so that information will be carried up throughout the course of the student's career within Middleborough Public Schools. In regard to our third goal, social emotional learning, one of the big issues that we've already been dealing with our, not influx, but our spike in English learners is making sure that all information that goes home is appropriately translated into a language, the language that the families would like and that can receive. And so having a focus on that is going to be really important for us as well. MEC is also going to be involved in the MTSS Academy. I'm really excited about that. The last few years for me as a principal at MEC, we've been trying to figure out our PBIS process and system and what that looks like in the culture. And I've been just trying to sort of inventory what we have, what we use, what's effective, what we should adjust and change. And I'm excited about using the MTSS Academy to help us with that process this year. Mrs. White also mentioned about the transitions, those transitional years. So I'm looking at our pre-K to K transitions, our K to 1 transitions, and also looking at sort of backwards is our 1 to K process and having visits from our pre-K teachers visiting our K students and our K students visiting our grade 1 students and our grade 1 teachers coming down to visit our kindergarten students just to see what those transitions look like and what the expectations are grade level wise and really trying to meet the needs and be more effective in that regard. And then also our pre-K has been doing a great job. They've had a goal the last few years of community outreach and being a resource for some of our private daycares in town and continuing that work and making that a more effective process, knowing that these students, these families are coming to Middleborough schools and their first step generally is a lot of times is with our K program, is with MEC, and making sure that that's a smooth transition and making sure that they are feeling welcomed and that the huge sense of belonging for them. I can answer any questions that you have.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gobiel, and thank you to all the principals this evening. I wanted to extend my thanks to not just your school councils, but all of the teachers, paraprofessionals, your related service providers, everybody else that works in your schools every single day. Those are the people who bring these plans to life. So with that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Item 5 on the agenda is the MSBA Middleborough High School building project. Do you have any updates for us on that?
Sure. We had a meeting last week. It was a very brief meeting, to be honest with you. The project is nearing 95% completion. Every meeting we go over any additional punch list items that are being addressed. Right now, we're in the land of punch list items that don't immediately come off the list. So that work really is ongoing. The art tables did not come up last week. I was listening for you on that item, but I didn't hear that. But I anticipate having another update at the beginning at next month's meeting, actually in November.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any questions on that? All right. Number 6, the MASC Mass Annual Conference, which is November 2nd through the 5th. I think there's still, I think you have to register for that. So just if you guys are intending on going, just make sure you register. Any questions on that? All right. Vice Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. That would, I believe that you have something to say about the, well, actually, first, before we move on to that, so I hear a second. Second. All right. Discussion.
With that, I'll turn to item number 1, which is a donation in honor of Dr. Leo McGurk. Dr. McGurk was a longtime educational research professor at BSU. He also happened to be an accomplished musician. He played clarinet, piano, and 12-string classical guitar. So this donation was established in his honor to the Middleborough Public Schools music program. The donations are continuing to come in at this moment. As of today, we are just over $1,000, which is very exciting. That would come in very handy to a program that we are all hoping to see grow in the years to come.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions? All right. So now you have to. This is my first time, so so this is the point where we go to vote. So what exactly do I say?
You already said it.
I already said it.
We just
Okay.
need a vote.
All right. So those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. It's unanimous. No, I don't bang the gavel now. There's so much power right here. Okay. Number 8, adjourn. Vice Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. Wait, again. Yes. Woo! Thank you all. And I didn't see any viewers, so no, I know that there were viewers.